Has Wolfenstein since 3D changed its original formula?
No,
at all?
I would
No.
say no.
It's better. It's better for it. Yes. And while a game that also came out this year that has been out for a long time, like Star Fox Zero, that's a problem Nintendo has a lot, is that they attempt to innovate every new game that
Honestly,
they have.
If a formula works, don't change it.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
that
doesn't mean spit out the same thing with a graphics update. Keep to the same type.
Hint.
You can stick to the same formula. You can try to innovate only where you think is strictly necessary. Beyond that, innovation for innovation's own sake becomes less of innovation, more of a gimmick. And especially in this sort of new line of consoles where innovation is almost pretty much required from the new games to the consoles.
Right.
So they can boost up sales for the consoles themselves. By the way, this is a podcast.
Oh yeah,
we started. You want to?
I'm a fan of cold opens. Go ahead, Ian.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to TrapCardGaming. My name is Ian. Alongside me, as always, is Eugene.
Hey guys.
Julian is here.
Special guest.
And Devin is playing Doom 4 for us.
All right, I got next game.
As you could probably tell, last time Julian and I mostly took over the show, and so let's try. We're gonna try to get everyone's input and not just ours.
Sorry about that.
So
no, we were
back
into the game.
So back to what you were saying about innovation. You can continue your thought.
Yeah, no, I was pretty much done. Essentially, it's sort of the idea of formula. You can stick to the formulas as much as you like, only innovating what's necessary. If it goes beyond that just to sell, it'll just become a gimmick, and it'll weaken the game as a whole.
Since we're... go ahead.
You see with marketing nowadays, especially when it comes to games, they can just slap the word innovative on it, and people will come to see, oh, this is new, and they may change one thing. Yeah. One minor thing.
And I'm okay with that, if it means it's still good. What I was just mentioning is that Nintendo does that, but with their entire game every single time. You'll see Sonic.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I think is that Sonic has done so poorly within the last 10 odd years.
I mean, if I may interrupt you, has there ever been an honestly good Sonic game?
Yes. I think it was Sonic 6. Sonic 2. Sonic 2 is great. The original old Sega Sonic is great. And then ever since then, they've been trying to innovate every single new game to give it this entirely new spin, and it's given the game a total lack of focus.
I think
because I think
I would almost say the innovation that made a game series great to worse. I could say it happened in my opinion, Resident Evil, as well as even in case of Silent Hill. I mean,
I see that a little bit.
I mean, Silent Hill 2, that was a great, lovely game. I loved it. It's extremely fun, very nostalgic to me.
I'm really happy you mentioned Silent Hill 2.
Yeah, I mean, even Silent Hill 3 wasn't bad, and 4 was I was but I mean, overall it wasn't a terrible game, but I feel like it kind of
to its counterparts, it was subpar.
You could say about Silent Hill is that no matter where you go in this series, it's still evidently Silent Hill.
It's very, very immersive, and with it really represents itself.
Is it still Silent Hill near its latest game? Do you think?
I mean, it still has, I would say, the Silent Hill features, the really edgy, the horror aspect. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be based in Silent Hill to be a Silent Hill game. Although,
but does it still have those original qualities that made the original Silent Hill?
I would say it's as strong, but I mean, it's still prevalent.
And I have two thoughts to add. Going back to the franchise stuff, with franchises modernizing. I'll go back to Sonic, like we mentioned earlier. I think personally, what makes them bad, other than how they're cheap knockoffs of each other nowadays, is the nostalgia of when you first picked up the controller and you're like, wow, look at this. I obviously born in like the 2000 era of gaming, so I wasn't really around for the early days of the PlayStation 1.
Right.
I mean, I can tell you that you didn't miss the golden age, though, because I would say the golden age of gaming would be '08 and prior, in my honest opinion. I think good games came out in '08 and prior to '08, but after '08, there are still good games, but
it's far and few between.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, and the reason I think that golden age is sort of dying is because every game that's coming out is not so much carbon copies, but have deviated so much from the original source material, with the exception of this game. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a huge Bethesda and Doom fan. But when you're playing Doom, the 2016 version, Doom 4, it's still almost unarguably Doom. You can still see it and see that it is Doom. It still is at its roots, and it's not preoccupied with constantly making itself something that it's not.
I can say that games have gone from I would say that 90s, early 2000s, a lot of games were not necessarily all story-driven. Like, there were a lot of mindless games.
Sure.
And nowadays, it's very less in the mindless sense.
Because we've gone to a narrative.
Exactly. And a lot of game companies, I'm not saying... Well, there is a good portion of them really focus on the multiplayer, which really, I think, takes away from the game itself.
Right.
Which is disappointing, because I think what really makes a great game is the single player, as I say, quotes, story.
Yeah.
And the thing that we've been missing in games a lot lately is cooperative play on the same console.
Well, that's because, that's mostly due to, the console, graphic quality.
Yeah, right. Consoles can't handle the graphics.
They can't handle the split screen. Your game would crash.
It's sad.
You'd essentially do what happened to my PlayStation. And you would just overrun the fan because it's trying to cool itself down because the graphics are just too intense for it.
It's destroying the hardware.
Too extreme. I don't really miss. As I've said before, in my own personal book, multiplayer can eat it. I'm a huge proponent of single player narrative. I will always reference BioShock, any BioShock, well except 2, because 2 can also eat it. When it comes to that, because coming back to innovation, it did what a good sequel does. BioShock Infinite did what a good sequel does, is bounce off of the original to explore its own ideas and create its own identity, but also have enough similarities to the original that it's still BioShock. Yeah. Yes.
And I see what you mean, and to bring up Call of Duty, COD 4. When they were making Call of Duty 4, they had 2 teams, because I'd say around this time multiplayer was really starting to kick off.
Yeah.
And so Infinity Ward basically had 2 teams. One team was the writers, and they do the campaign, and the campaign was great, in my opinion. Then again,
I thought it was good, yeah.
And again, I haven't played it in quite a while.
From what you remember of it, it was good.
Yes.
I remember that big radioactive blast thing is the only thing I remember.
And
it was the strongest point.
And they also had guys working on the multiplayer who were focused solely on multiplayer and leveling up and all basically being the great grandfather of modern Call of Duty, even though right now it's ass.
Because it's not recognizable as Call of Duty anymore.
No. Like, you got people running around as giant gingerbread man with RPGs.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
That's what it feels like.
You've never seen that?
I haven't played Call of Duty since Black Ops 2.
You haven't missed much.
Okay.
I can tell you that. We don't mention ghosts around here. Oh shit, I said it.
Yeah, Ghost is like the smelly inbred cousin that shows up at your wedding reunions, covered in stains of like toffee apples or something.
Yeah.
But the point is I liked what they did back with COD 4 when it was still focused on campaign and multiplayer was just becoming a new thing. Yeah. And I think that's why people liked it so much, was because it was
multiplayer was in addition with this great story, you get some multiplayer, and now it's with this multiplayer you get a decent story.
You get not even a half-assed campaign, a quarter-assed campaign.
Yeah.
And like, have you played the Black Ops 3 campaign?
Didn't even bother.
Ass.
I played
Legit.
I played the first.
Like,
I think I played the first quarter of it.
I played the whole.
Every
I played
single
the first mission.
every single one of the characters looked like Bradley Cooper.
or
Wow.
or World War II Brad Pitt.
Yeah, it was Bradley. It was just Bradley Cooper and then one black guy. And then because they were trying their best to like diversify, and that's all they could manage was one African American guy.
Okay,
Thanks.
and now
Nicely done.
to flip the conversation, going back to my second thought, when Devin was talking about Silent Hill and horror aspects, I
Oh
feel
God.
like horror has lost its
totally,
its reign in video
The
games.
Evil Within.
I have
Oh,
I have so
Okay.
much to say about
Okay.
this subject, but go.
Evil. Okay, well, I'll mention something about Evil Within, and then I'll continue my thought. If Kuriyami mode, for those of you who don't know, that's complete blackout. Like
Yeah.
it's Evil Within with complete blackout minus your lantern or flashlight. I think that would have been amazing,
If it was the actual game.
and not you had to beat it to unlock this.
Because the Evil Within, it lacked subtlety, it lacked pacing, it lacked atmosphere, it lacked what made horror good. That's it referenced
And-
Silent Hill 2, but that's I think the best survival horror game ever made
and
for very
and
specific reasons.
the original survival horrors were amazing because you never knew what was around that corner.
Yeah.
Nowadays, what's around that corner is a cheap jump scare
Yeah.
that's gonna startle you for half a second,
And then
and
you're
then
able to shoot it.
you'll either shoot it or just shrug it off and just move
and then
on.
continue with what you're doing.
Exactly.
It's what made survival horror so good back in the day. I know you and I disagree on Resident Evil, but what Resident Evil did, I will not argue, is that they used their gameplay to restrict your ability, thereby making it scarier.
Of course, like the PS1's
Fixed camera.
fixed camera. Yes.
Yeah.
I couldn't find the word. Thank you.
It restricted the player's movement in sight, thereby making it more pressuring upon you. And so did Silent Hill with its combat, which sucked, but it was good that it sucked.
But
because,
you gotta think like the reason behind the fixed camera angle would be because the graphics look good is because they're all 2D. I mean, it's the perspective of the character.
accident or not, it still I think contributed to the atmosphere.
It did because it restricted your field of vision.
Yeah, it was the minute I think
Again,
Dead Space came out was when survival horror began to go downhill.
Like again, what you just said, Devin. You don't know what's around the corner.
Yeah,
Exactly, which is and can be a pain in the ass. But
Of course, yes.
it really adds to that depth of feeling. Dead Space, that's a touchy subject. I wasn't so the first one was you have to EA's first survival horror game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can't give them too much shit.
Like,
but,
they did
I
good.
could absolutely give. EA as much shit as I please.
you can't.
It's old EA. It's like
it's like
before they turn into
They
this-
tried something
Yeah.
different, at least. Okay.
And they did decent at it. Sure, it was linear and it was like repetitive, but at least it was good for what
They
they
tried to do kinky.
Well,
It was a
since when?
polished turd. Okay. not even
Since
that.
when did Dead Space ever try repetitive, ever do well in horror?
I don't know.
Actually,
I think the first time you
I
ever
didn't
saw
mind
that alien.
the second Dead Space.
Yeah, but then when you see it again and again and again, it keeps popping out of the same closet, making a gra noise and growing arms out of its tits.
Hey, I love those things.
Dude, I love
Yes.
I'm just-
They're fine. Like the first scare was fine, but then afterwards they'll come out of every single closet and do the same thing again. It's not scary. It's predictable, and when you actually have the power to fight back, all the pressure is lost.
Do you guys remember the era of QTEs?
Quick time
Yes.
events? Yes,
Yes.
I do.
Um,
God of War was the only one who did it well. Period.
pretty much.
I would argue Resident Evil 4 in cases.
Well, then again, I haven't played any of the Resident Evil series. So.
Did play? Yes, I'm playing Resident Evil 4 right now.
Have you gotten to Krauser?
No.
It's random.
And Resident Evil 4 is another example of a survival horror like that. It's survival horror in quotes because it approached its survival horror with like this kind of eye-rolling irony, that sort of self-awareness. We're talking about QTEs. I think they're fine if they're in the game
And they're
all
used
the time,
and-
as
and-
a central gaming mechanic.
and
I
they're
don't-
used well. They're not just thrown there.
yeah. There's the occasional game that you would see in like 2010, 11, in which QTEs, that was like the season of random QTEs,
Yes.
where they were just thrown in at various points, you press them and then move on with the rest of the game, you would never see them again. But
like God of War, it was always there.
Always there. And I'm not a huge fan of QTEs, they don't blow my mind, I find them boring, but if there is a central game mechanic, they won't bug me nearly as much. Like that, they're fine in theory. Eugene, you were kicking butt earlier.
I was earlier, but Devin's now going to be kicking some ass.
Maybe.
He found the good gun.
I actually like this
lightning
lightning
gun?
gun.
Yeah, dude, I love
the lightning gun's
gun.
fun because
So
when
fun.
you are hitting people with it, it sounds like you're popping popcorn.
Yes, but it's such a good
I'm
weapon.
popping your flesh.
Crackle, crackle. Snap, crackle, and pop.
But
Sound of your bones.
I
Oh,
feel
geez, right there.
I feel like survival horror and most, if not, yeah, I'll leave it at most. Most survival horror games start off as survival and horror, and then
Evolve into action.
and then you progress
Yes.
in the story, and it just turns into
carried
action shoot 'em ups.
carried
Yes. No, yeah. For examples,
Evil
Resident
Within.
Evil, Evil Within, Resident Evil 6,
Oh,
Resident
absolutely,
Evil 5.
Evil Within.
Oh,
Yep.
God. The
It
Evil,
gives you a gun and then
the
says,
Evil
"Here you
Within
go,
didn't
have
even
fun."
wait until the first act to do that.
So why did they even put melee in Evil Within if
It
it,
didn't
doesn't
need
do
it.
shit?
They advertised the non-melee sections only just to sucker in suckers like me who thought it would have some good atmosphere and restrictive gameplay.
Right. Because that's what horror needs to do. It doesn't need to make you feel like, oh, here's everything you'll ever need to survive in a horror. No, they need to give you restricted feels. Like,
Yeah, you need to feel
And
less powerful than
you-
the things you are.
And
Right.
I will bring up Five Nights at Freddy's 1 and only 1
Only
because
Yeah.
because it was new and it was startling.
Mhm.
Like
because you're
Like-
this man trapped in a room with a finite amount of defense.
Exactly.
I really love the art style of the first Five Nights at Freddy. It really brings me back to like the early '90s PC games. Well, not early '90s, like late '90s and early 2000s PC games. Like
I wish I could go
Like,
back to the time when Five Nights at Freddy's
man.
didn't give me a
like
bad taste in my mouth.
Half-Life 2.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
what's going on? What's going on? I don't know.
I wish I could. I just said this, but I wish I could go back to the time where Five Nights at Freddy's didn't give me a bad taste in my mouth. Because now I'm just imagining like stupid middle schoolers watching
clip sync.
PewDiePie and acting as if. I don't know. I know it's like another stupid generational thing, like stupid millennials sort of thing. But that sucks to me.
Guys, that is all the time we have for this episode. Drop a like down below if you enjoyed, and we all will see you in the next video.
What should we call this podcast?
Evolution of gaming and horror.
Sorry. Wow. Wow. You sound like some some convention. That's a convention title. Julian, what was that laugh?
Sorry.
Okay.
I didn't think that noise could come out of your mouth.
Okay.
Oh,
Again.
Jesus.
Bye, guys.
Bye bye.